Oregon Senior U.S. Senator Ron Wyden is back home for town halls in 7 of the state's rural counties, talking to residents in Wasco, Sherman, Morrow, Umatilla, Gillum, Douglas, and Jackson counties. Now, between his town hall stops, Senator Wyden agreed to stop by the Coin Studio. So, Senator Ron Wyden, thanks for coming back on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Ken, thanks for having me again.
What are some of the major concerns that you've been hearing from rural Oregonians?
They have been talking to me about agriculture. They've been talking to me about water. They've been talking to me about prescription drug prices. But what you may find surprising is in 5 open-to-all town hall meetings in counties that are pretty red politically, I did not get one question about the former president.
Interesting, because this was a big week in terms of news concerning Donald Trump, with the indictment in New York on the 34 counts related to the hush payment money to Stormy Daniels. What's your thought on the indictment and the arrest of Mr. Trump?
I'm not going to do running commentary on what looks like it's going to be a long-running matter. I will say that I do feel very strongly. My parents fled the Nazis, not all got out. My dad was one of the Richie boys. He dropped the propaganda pamphlets on the Nazis. We're so patriotic, the Wyden family, and we always believe deeply in the rule of law and the rule of law applying to everybody. And as this process begins, that's how I approach it.
Are you concerned that this will just give Mr. Trump more political ammunition since he is running for president again?
If you are focused first and foremost on the rule of law and it applying to everybody, whether you're the most affluent person or somebody of modest means, you don't say you're going to dissect the politics for week after week after week. You say, as I did in those 5 town hall meetings that I've already had, a couple more by the time your show airs, I'm going to respond to what Oregonians have on their mind. People ask me about this whole question of Oregon seceding and somehow becoming part of Idaho. And we had a very thoughtful conversation. And I went through, for example, that I'm honored to represent all 36 counties. Nobody has ever done this before, to make a pledge open to all town hall meetings in all 36 counties. And I said, let's talk about some of the issues. For example, Idaho has a sales tax. Oregon doesn't have a sales tax. Where I was, to a great extent, was ag country. And ag folks care deeply about water rights. And water rights would be very affected by this whole matter of becoming part of Idaho. So it was a thoughtful conversation. Ken, you and I have talked about it. It was an Oregon way conversation where we weren't talking about Democrats and Republicans. We were talking about ways to address their issues. And I had farmers concerned about their fuel choices. And I said that in the clean energy tax credits, I wrote, we're technologically neutral so that everybody can be part of the system. All sources can be part of the system, but the more you reduce carbon, the bigger your tax savings. And the farmer basically listened to me and said, okay, you're not really the problem. And I said, well, we'll have some more conversation and see how you approach it. But the point is, we were focused on things that really mattered to Oregonians.
What do you think of the Greater Idaho movement, and what do you think it indicates in terms of urban versus rural in the state of Oregon?
Well, it certainly is part of a response to the frustration folks in rural Oregon have about the valley and metropolitan areas. And when I said, well, I come for an open to all town meeting in every county every year, and I have offices and the like, they said, yeah, we appreciate it, but we have differences about this issue and that issue. There might be a difference on guns, for example. But the point is, when you say we're all in it together, and I would talk, for example, about trade. You know, something like 1 out of 4 jobs in Oregon depends on trade. The trade jobs pay better than do the non-trade jobs. That often involves growing things in rural Oregon, adding value to them and shipping somewhere. So those kinds of issues help knit us together. And I think people said, yeah, that's the way we ought to approach government.
You're chair of the Senate Finance Committee, and you just called for millionaires and billionaires to, quote, pay their fair share in taxes. What are you proposing and why?
Well, let me give you an example just from this week. We saw an example of massive federal tax evasion by bankers and banks, Swiss-based, where you would have very wealthy Americans, often, for example, taking dual nationality, United States and another country, and then the banks would basically toss their passport, and there wouldn't be a way for the IRS and even the banks to ensure that as wealthy Americans, they would pay their fair share. That cheats your viewers who live in Oregon. Your viewers are cheated when these wealthy, mega wealthy individuals, for example, are looking to evade taxes, and it was more than $700 million worth of taxes concealed, and that's cheating Oregonians.
Do you think that there's any momentum in either house in Washington, D.C. to promote what you're asking?
Well, what I can tell you is that after we released the report, I had a number of Republicans come up to me and said, look, massive, ongoing federal tax evasion, like you described in your report, is something I'm willing to do what it takes to get rid of.
You're also on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and how concerned are you about the growing alliance between Russia and China, especially in the context of the war in Ukraine?
We certainly ought to be concerned about it. You know, my sense is that Putin in particular has enormous appetites. I have sat on the Intelligence Committee. He's KGB. I'm not going to get into classified matters, but certainly what we have sought to do, and I talked about my dad dealing with, a dictator, is important for us to do. The president was right to make it clear we weren't going to commit American troops, but clearly we ought to be supportive of the freedom fighters in Ukraine.
So should we continue to send the amount of military aid that we have sent to Ukraine?
Well, the first thing we got to do is watchdog the way the money is spent. And I got a number of questions over this week at the town hall meetings about examples where citizens felt it wasn't as well targeted as it should be. But with respect to the commitment to making sure Putin does not take over Ukraine, I think it's in America's strategic interest.
Back to the reason that you're here doing town halls across Oregon. This has been very important to you from the beginning of your term. Why are these town halls so critical in terms of your view of dealing with your home state?
Ken, it goes back to the question of the Idaho movement and other kinds of political issues where there is division in our state. For a lot of Oregonians, D.C. might as well be Mars for all the connection it really has with them. So when I break it down in terms of agriculture and roads and rural schools and holding down the cost of their medicine, they say those are common interests. Those bring us together. And I keep telling elected officials in the Valley, that's what you ought to be trying to do when you go to the state legislature or other political bodies, and you ought to be trying to build coalitions with people who don't always see the world exactly like you do.
Senator Ron Wyden, thank you very much for coming back on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Let's do it again soon. Thanks, Ken.
We will.